Most people think they can't retire early because they don't earn enough, but that's only half the problem. The UK system takes money from you before you're paid, again when you spend it, again when you save it, and potentially again when your investments actually grow. The fact is, the UK tax system punishes people who earn money, but rewards people who understand where to put it. The wealthy usually understand this, but most ordinary workers were never taught it at school. So in this video, I'll show you 4 layers of tax quietly slowing down your financial freedom and the completely legal tools UK investors can use to fight back. Part 1. You are taxed before the money reaches you. The first tax is the most obvious. You work all month, you work your ass off, you earn your income, and before the money reaches your bank account, income tax and national insurance have already taken their cut, their share. For most people in England, Wales and Northern Ireland, earnings above the personal allowance can currently be taxed at 20%, then 40% and eventually 45%. The threshold works differently in Scotland slightly, but here's the part that makes people angry. The standard personal allowance remains £12,570. The higher rate threshold is £50,270. So if wages rise while these thresholds barely move, more ordinary workers like you gradually get pulled into higher tax brackets, higher tax bands. You don't suddenly feel wealthy, your mortgage hasn't disappeared, food isn't getting cheaper. Obviously, many people are feeling the pain in the UK because the cost of living is an absolute joke. But the government is very sneaky as it treats you like a high earner. That's sometimes called fiscal drag, and it's one of the quietest ways taxes rise without the headlines. Someone can get a promotion, accept more responsibility and work longer hours, only to find out that a much smaller proportion of the pay rise reaches their bank account. That doesn't mean you should avoid earning more, which some people do. Earning more is still really powerful, but if you concentrate only on income and ignore tax planning, you're playing the financial game wrong, in my humble opinion. And this is where the first tool comes in. Tool 1. Your workplace pension or SIP, self-invested personal pension. For a basic rate taxpayer, an £80 personal contribution can generally become £100 inside a pension after basic rate relief. Higher rate taxpayers may be entitled to claim additional relief, depending on how their pension operates and if your employer matches your contribution. Refusing the match can effectively mean walking away from part of your employment package. Ask your employer 3 questions. How much will you match? Does the pension use salary sacrifice? What fund is my money actually invested into? That third question matters a lot. Literally millions of people contribute to a workplace pension without having a clue, without ever checking the underlying fund, fees or asset allocation. When you're looking at putting money into your workplace pension can save a lot of tax, but pensions come with an important trade-off. The money is locked away. For most people, the normal minimum pension age is due to rise from 55 to 57 in April 2028, although some people have protected access rights. So if your plan is to retire at 50, you probably shouldn't put every available pound, every single penny into a pension. You might need other, more accessible investments to bridge the years between stopping work and accessing your pension. We'll get to in a little bit. Part 2. You are taxed when you spend what's left. So you've earned the money, income tax and national insurance have obviously already been deducted, been taken away. Now you spend what remains, what's left, and tax appears again. VAT is added to many things you buy. Fuel includes duty, alcohol includes duty, insurance can include insurance premium tax. Buying something doesn't just cost you the sticker price. It costs you the amount you had to earn before tax to afford the sticker price, should I say. Imagine you're a higher rate taxpayer and you want to spend £1,000. You'll need to earn a lot more than that £1,000 gross to have that amount available after deductions. This is why lifestyle inflation destroys so many high earners. They earn more, so they buy a more expensive car, upgrade the house, increase every monthly payment, and lock themselves into needing that higher income forever. I got the bigger house back in 2013, and it was a really good alarm clock, but it did cause me a lot of stress and worry. The vast majority fall into this trap, like me from 2012 to 2018. They look wealthy, but really they're still living month to month. Here's my opinion. A high income doesn't make you wealthy if losing that income would destroy your lifestyle. Basically, you need a cash buffer of at least 3 months from my experience. Real wealth is not the car on the driveway, not at all. It's how long you can live without needing your next wage. Tool number 2, control your financial gap. Your financial gap is the difference between what you earn and what you spend. That gap is what buys assets. It's what fills your ISA. It's what builds up your pension pot. And eventually, it's what allows work to become optional. Financial freedom. You don't need to stop enjoying your life, but every permanent monthly expense pushes your freedom number higher. For example, if you need £5,000 a month to live, replacing your income requires a much larger portfolio, a pot, than if you need £3,000 a month to live. Early retirement isn't only an investment problem, it's also a what you spend each month problem. Part 3. You can be taxed for saving. Now this is where the system becomes really frustrating. You paid tax when you earned the money, when you earned your income. You resisted the temptation to spend it, you put it in the bank. And if the interest exceeds your allowances, that interest can become taxable as well. For the 2026-27 tax year, basic rate taxpayers generally have a £1,000 personal savings allowance. High rate taxpayers generally receive £500. Additional rate taxpayers don't receive a personal savings allowance. That doesn't mean cash is bad. Everyone should consider holding at least some cash in a prop, like basically an emergency fund. Cash is needed for short-term expenses and money you cannot afford to expose to market volatility. But keeping decades of long-term wealth in an ordinary savings account is a huge mistake and can create two problems. Tax can reduce the interest and inflation can reduce what the money can actually buy. Tool 3. Use an ISA properly. For the 2026-27 tax year, an adult can put up to £20,000 across their ISAs. Within a stocks and shares ISA, investment income and capital gains are sheltered from UK income tax, tax-free, and capital gains tax. And unlike a pension, you can normally access the money pretty much whenever you need it. That makes the stocks and shares ISA really valuable for anyone hoping to retire before pension access age. Think of the two accounts as serving different purposes, different jobs. Your pension helps fund later retirement. Your ISA can help create the bridge to it. Let's say you want to stop working at 52, but you can't access most of your pension until 57. Your ISA could potentially fund those 5 years. Then the pension becomes available. Later, the state pension might provide another source of income. That is much more intelligent than throwing literally everything into one account without understanding when you can actually access it. An ISA is not an investment itself, it's a tax wrapper, but you still have to decide what to hold inside it. For many normal investors like you, that could be a low-cost, diversified global index fund, just an option. Instead of attempting to predict the next Nvidia, Tesla, or crypto, you can own thousands of companies across different countries and industries in one fund. It isn't exciting, I admit. It probably won't make you rich over the next few weeks, few months, but boring, consistent investing has a much better chance for normal people getting where they want to go than constantly chasing the next miracle investment. Before we get to the fourth type of tax, this, as always, is not financial advice, and the full disclaimer can be found below in the description. And in the description, you'll also find the link from our private investing community on School. It's free, and you get around hundreds of other investors, all supporting each other and pushing hard for the same goals. Part 4. Your investments can be taxed when they do well. Let's say you've earned the money, paid tax, and invested what remained. Your investment grows, you sell it for a profit. If it's held outside a tax wrapper, capital gains tax will apply when your taxable gains exceed your annual exemption. For the 2026-27 tax year, the capital gains tax annual exempt amount is only £3,000. Dividends outside an ISA can also become taxable above the dividends allowance, with the applicable rate dependent on your tax band. From April 2026, the ordinary and upper dividends tax rates increased to 10.75% and 35.75% respectively. This is why account selection matters. Two people could own the same investment, achieve the same return, and still keep different amounts of money, because one used the available tax wrappers and the other basically didn't. I'm not saying you should never use a general investment account. If you have used your ISA allowance, it can still have a legitimate role. But for many beginners, investing in a taxable account while leaving their ISAs unused makes zero sense. Tool number 4, use the right order. If I was creating a simple UK investing system from scratch today, I would normally think about it in this order. First, build an emergency fund. It's important. You don't want a broken boiler or job loss forcing you to sell investments during a market crash. Second, clear expensive consumer debt. It's difficult to build wealth while paying really high interest on credit cards or loans. Third, take full advantage of any valuable employer pension match. Fourth, consider whether additional pension contributions make sense for you and your tax position and retirement date. Fifth, invest through a stocks and shares ISA for flexible, accessible, long-term wealth. Then, only after understanding those foundations, consider taxable accounts or higher risk investments. That doesn't mean this exact order is perfect for you. For anyone, someone buying a house soon might require more cash. Like my sister, for example, who I told a few months ago to put her money into a savings account for a house deposit. Someone approaching retirement might need a different asset mix. Someone with a defined benefit pension will have a different circumstance from a self-employed person. But the principle remains the same. Don't obsess over finding the perfect investment while ignoring the account holding it. The simple 2-bucket retirement plan. Here's a simple way to think about financial freedom in the UK. You have 2 main buckets. Bucket 1, accessible money. This could include emergency cash, a stocks and shares ISA, other accessible investments. This money gives you flexibility and can help fund the years before pension access. Bucket 2, later life money. This could include workplace pensions, SIPs, defined benefit pensions, eventually the state pension. This money is generally less accessible today, but pensions can provide valuable tax advantages and possibly employee contributions. Your goal isn't necessarily to put everything into one bucket. It's to build the correct bridge between today, the day you want to stop working, pension access age and state pension age. That's how normal people can potentially retire early in the UK without needing £1 million sitting in a bank account. The bigger picture. The system isn't going to knock on your door and create this plan for you. The HMRC won't phone you up to remind you that you haven't used your ISA this year. Your employer probably won't sit down and explain whether your pension fund suits you and your goals. And your bank earns more money while your long-term cash sits there losing purchasing power because of inflation. You have to take responsibility to fact. That might sound a bit harsh, but it's also empowering because once you understand the rules, you can start using the same legal tools already available to millions of UK investors. You can't control government policy. You cannot control future tax rates. You can't control what the market does next week, next month, but you can control the gap between your earnings and spending. Whether you understand your workplace pension, whether you use an ISA or not, what your money is invested into, whether you consistently invest every single month, whether you build an accessible bridge to retirement. And look, if you feel like you need one-on-one help and support with any of this or all of this, you can join my free school and can even book a one-to-one call with me, someone who really cares about you and your money and someone who has 25 years of investing experience. Summary. So yes, your money can potentially be taxed when you earn it, spend it, save it and invest it. But the lesson isn't that tax is theft or that you should try to hide money from the HMRC, not at all. The lesson is that remaining financially ignorant is really expensive. The UK gives investors some powerful tools. Use them. The problem is that most people either don't understand them or wait until their 50s to start using them. Huge mistake. Let me know in the comments, which do you think is the biggest trap? Tax on earnings, spending, savings or investments? And if you want a simple UK investing plan using pensions, ISAs and low-cost index funds, global funds, type plan below. And I'll send you the details of my free complete investing community on School, where again, hundreds of ordinary investors are learning how to build wealth with investments and potentially how to retire earlier.